Hey, have you ever stopped to wonder how sheep, those fluffy, peaceful animals grazing in fields, became such an important part of human life? Believe it or not, there's a long and wild history behind it. Sheep weren't always the tame, woolly creatures we know today. In fact, their ancestors were wild and tough, surviving in harsh mountain terrains. Today, I'm going to take you on an incredible journey through time to discover how humans domesticated sheep and how that changed the course of history. So let's rewind the clock to about 11,000 years ago. We're in the region known as the Fertile Crescent, which covers modern-day Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Iran. Imagine it. Mountains, rolling hills, and wide open spaces. This is where early humans were starting to settle down, building the first small communities. Up until then, humans had lived as nomads, hunting, gathering, always on the move. But now they were starting to learn how to farm and raise animals. One of the wild animals they often hunted was the muflon, the ancestor of today's sheep. These creatures were nothing like the sheep you see today. They were wild, fast, and lived in high, rocky mountains. They were also pretty elusive, which made hunting them a real challenge. At first, humans hunted them just like any other wild animal for meat. But as these early people started settling down, they needed a more reliable source of food. Hunting wild animals wasn't enough to feed a growing population. So, over time, humans had a revolutionary idea. Why not tame some of these animals instead of constantly chasing after them? This was easier said than done. You see, wild mouflon were not exactly cooperative. But humans started to notice something interesting. Some of the wild sheep were a bit more calm, less likely to run away when approached. These were the ones that humans started to keep around. Over many generations, they bred the tamer sheep together, and slowly, sheep became more and more domesticated. This wasn't an overnight process. It took thousands of years of trial and error. But eventually, the wild, aggressive mouflon transformed into the docile sheep we know today. These sheep were easier to manage, didn't run away, and could provide humans with more than just food. Now you might wonder, why sheep? Why not some other animal? Well, sheep had a lot to offer. First, they provided meat for food, which was crucial for early humans. But even more importantly, they provided wool, one of the most valuable materials of the ancient world. Let's imagine for a moment you're living around 4000 BCE in a small village. For years, people have been using animal hides or plant fibers for clothing. These materials weren't perfect. Hides could be stiff and hot, and plant fibers didn't hold up well in rough weather. Then someone in your village gets an idea. What if we use the wool from sheep? And that's where things got interesting. Wool was an absolute game changer. It was warm, durable, and easy to work with. Plus, sheep could grow more wool year after year, making it a renewable resource. Soon, people were using wool for clothing, blankets, and all sorts of textiles. Wool quickly became so important that by 3500 BCE, people were trading it across towns and villages, creating one of the world's earliest textile industries. In fact, by the time the Bronze Age rolled around, sheep weren't just useful for their wool. They were powering entire economies. During this time, sheep-related products like wool, milk, and meat made up about 30 to 40% of the trade economy in regions like the Fertile Crescent. That's a huge percentage when you think about how many resources early humans needed to survive. Sheep also started to play a big role in culture and religion. Many ancient societies saw sheep as sacred animals. In religious ceremonies, sheep were often sacrificed as offerings to the gods, symbolizing wealth, fertility, and prosperity. Remember the story of Abraham from the Bible? When he was asked to sacrifice his son, Isaac, a ram, a male sheep, was provided by God as a substitute. This shows how sheep were seen not just as animals, but as symbols of divine favor and survival. Fast forward a bit, and sheep are still incredibly important. By the time of ancient empires like Babylon and Egypt, sheep wool was a highly traded commodity. Merchants traveled long distances, trading wool for grain, metals, and other goods. In fact, in some ancient cultures, owning a large flock of sheep was seen as a sign of wealth and status, kind of like driving a luxury car today. But the story doesn't stop in ancient times. Even in the modern world, sheep continue to play a huge role in our lives. Today, countries like Australia and New Zealand have built entire sectors of their economies around sheep farming. Did you know that Australia produces about 25% of the world's wool? That's right, sheep farming is still a massive industry. And it's not just wool. Sheep milk is used to make some of the finest cheeses in the world, like Roquefort and Pecorino. Plus, in places like Scotland, sheep farming is used as part of sustainable agriculture practices. Farmers use sheep to graze on land in ways that help protect the environment. Sheep are moved from field to field, allowing grass to regrow and preventing soil erosion. It's an eco-friendly farming method that's been used for thousands of years and is still vital today. So next time you see a sheep or wear a wool sweater, think about the long, incredible history behind it. From wild mouflon roaming the mountains to the domesticated sheep that helped build ancient civilizations, these animals have played a huge role in shaping our world. And that's the epic journey of how sheep became our woolly friends, an animal that continues to impact our lives in ways we might not even realize.